that notification. Oh, there it is. Great. Okay, so I'm really excited about today's meeting. We've got Steve Osborne speaking to us from Texas Insurance. Steve's been in the insurance business for a long time, but for the last 4 years, several years, he's been providing insurance, specifically managing insurance for beekeepers, large and small. Also stick around after Steve speaks. We've got the Blessings giving their scholarship student presentation for their scholarship from the last couple of years, but I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to Steve for now. Steve, thanks for joining us.
Well, you bet, Eric. Thank you very much. Thanks for having me too. I really appreciate it. I can tell you one thing: the beekeeping industry is fascinating to me, and you guys. I've never met. I was telling Eric when we kind of preview this meeting, I've never met a beekeeper that wasn't just passionate about what y'all do, and I just think that's a good thing. If anytime you're passionate about what you do for a living, you wake up, or if you do it part-time, you wake up and you just can't wait to go to work. That's pretty cool. And I've got a fire in the background on my TV in honor of you guys, because I'm in Austin, Texas, where it's 60 degrees. So anyway, because I know it's cold there. I've lived in Austin, Texas pretty much my whole life, but I've got family in St. Louis, and I've got a son who's from Austin, but he lives in Newton, Iowa. And I think they got 14 inches of snow. But anyway, Eric, thanks for having me. I appreciate that. Hey, let's talk insurance. That's exciting, right? Eric, they're asleep already. No, I'm kidding.
I muted them all, so they're not going to respond.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about that. Y'all, I work for Texas Insurance. I've worked there, as Eric said. I've been in the industry my whole career since I got out of college, and I do have some Missouri ties. I went to my senior year. My dad was in the military, and I moved my senior year to Knob Noster, Missouri. And my dad was stationed at Whiteman Air Force Base. Went to Troy, Alabama, played a little ball there, and then I transferred and finished my college career in Warrensburg, Central Missouri State. And I've been in the insurance industry since I graduated from Central Missouri State. But I am with Texas Insurance. We are a niche agency. What that means is we only go after accounts that we've got. It's a niche. We know how to write it. We know how to talk the talk, and beekeeping is one of our main niches. The other ones we do wholesale nurseries. We do landscapers. We do fishing and hunting guides. And we do a lot of farm and ranch. I mean, we're in Texas, right? So we do a lot of farm and ranch, but beekeeping is the main thing for us. And I'm the one that in our agency that does the beekeepers. And what that means is we're tied into the industry. We're a member of a lot of the national associations, just like y'all's is a local. We're a member of Honey Producers Association, and then we at Texas Beekeepers Association, that's not national. And then we not only are a member, but we insure them, and we attend their meetings, we go to their trade shows, and we exhibit. And if you call us on the phone, you call me on the phone, we know how to talk beekeeping, which I think is very important. If you call your local agent to try to get insurance on a beekeeper, they'll either don't know where to start, or they don't have a market that will do it. And that's not a bad thing. It's just not their niche, and that's our niche. So anyway, that's Texas Insurance. I'm in Austin, Texas. We've got a branch in El Campo, Texas, and Belleville, Texas. And we're known. We've been in business since the early 80s and been doing beekeepers for 20 years. So that's kind of the history about us. The type of insurance that we write and the type of beekeeping operations that we write is what I want to talk about next. I've got an application right here in front of me in one of our insurance companies. And one thing we've done is, if your local agent try to call one of his insurance companies, say, hey, I'd like to try to get a quote on one of my bee, they don't even get bee out of their mouth, and they say, no, we don't write beekeepers, bee sting, so we don't write that. Well, when we started this as a niche 20 years ago, we gathered our insurance carriers and explained to them the industry. It's like, everyone thinks about a when they think of beekeeping, they think about the guy mowing his lawn and he's all of a sudden swarmed by killer bees and he died. Yeah, I mean, and it's just not like that. And our insurance companies, we just had to educate them on what you guys do, specifically what you do. And what I mean by that is, and one of our insurance companies broke it up, honey extracting. And within honey extracting, that includes pollination. We insure if you go to California and pollinate for the almond fields. We insure your trucks if you have some going up there. We insure your hives, your boxes, your frames. We insure general liability, workers' comp, commercial auto, for honey extracting, pollination, the sale of nukes and queen bees, beeswax, candles, and so forth and so on. They categorize that in one class. They call it honey extracting sales, and all that I just mentioned is included in that. And by the way, y'all, at the end of when I talk, well, I'll have a Q&A. So if you guys have any questions, or if you have questions, we'll just say that to the end, if that's okay. Because I know I'm going on. I got 20 minutes. My wife said there's no way you're gonna do 20, because she knows I can talk. But anyway, so that's what we do. And the next class is what we call humane bee removal, or bee removal, hive removal. We insure that. Two things with that. It's inside buildings, as you guys know, or it's swarms. Okay, we can do both. When you do bee removal inside buildings, the first thing they want to know is, do they do cutouts? Well, of course they do. It's inside the building. And if they do they tell the customer that they will repair the cutouts when they're done? And if you do, the best answer is no, we don't. We leave it up to the client to get their contractor and all that. But if you do, it may kick it out of the beekeeping program, because now you're a carpenter, right? Or they want to know what your revenue is doing repairs, and they would just add that to the class. You have beehive removals, you got honey extracting, they'll just add carpentry as a class. And the swarms is not a problem. A lot of our beekeepers in Texas, the bees get in like the drains, the underneath drains, the power meter, the water meters. They love getting in those boxes, those things underneath there. And swarms is not a problem, but we insure that, and they categorize that differently. We insure product liability, which is included in general liability. Products is included. They'll do honey, they'll do mead or wine, they'll do beeswax, they'll do candles, they'll do pretty much what you can make out of beeswax and honey. What they do not like, however, is anything cosmetic. So in other words, if you do lip balms that you put on your lips, if you do soaps, lotions, anything that you apply to the human body, the insurance companies, the ones we use in Missouri and other, they specifically exclude that. In other words, they do not provide coverage for that. But we have another market that does. So if you come to us and say, man, I need to get some insurance, and then when we go through our questionnaire, we'll ask exactly what you do. And if you go, 25% of my business is selling lip balms or lotions or soaps, well, that knocks out a couple companies, but we got others, okay, that do not exclude it, but it's a little bit heavier price, or a heavier premium, if you will. So that's we've got 5 different insurance companies that specialize in beekeepers for us. In other words, it's a special beekeeping program. You like my fire, by the way? Oh, they can't talk. My bad. Anyway, so that's what's it's in y'all's honor. I hope it's not too hot over there. But so we can pretty much insure everything other than the actual bees themselves. We can insure auto. We can insure liability. We can insure workers' comp, umbrella. What we call inland marine. So if you need to get some of your Hummer bee insured any of your equipment. If you do honey extracting, we can do your honey house, anything that's in the honey house, the stock, the contents, the material. We can insure all that. And we do insure all that. And it's just the only limitations is the actual bees themselves. We don't insure them, but I was explaining to Eric that if you want to insure the frames, boxes, hives, and all that, we kind of insure it to price like $250 per box. So it kind of would cover the bees if something happened because of how much we insure the boxes for. And does that make sense, y'all? Nod or okay, cool. The next, so cosmetics. If you're a beekeeper and you provide classes or schools or you're a mentor and you charge for that, we insure that. You know, if you give tours on how to be a beekeeper and show them your apiaries and all that, we do that. It's just a different class. We just need to know about it. Okay. And that's with, again, every one of the insurance companies that have our special beekeeping program for us insures all this, except the cosmetics. And we got two that do that. We just got to know about the cosmetics. And on the beehive removals, the companies we have, they require that you have a kind of a formal hold harmless agreement or waiver that you provide to your customer. And it says, and I've got one if y'all ever need one that we got one of the associations, they kind of recommend it. It's a hold harmless. I'm coming in here to remove your beehive. You know, if I cause damage to your home or your house, or, you know, I'm not liable. Of course, sometimes that holds up in court, sometimes it doesn't. But at least they have a waiver you got signed and keep it on file in case anything happens. So that is the beehive removal. That's the toughest class when we do send in that. And I've never met a beekeeper that doesn't do removals. I mean, we insure beekeepers all over the country. We're licensed in over 40 states, but if we're not licensed, we can get a license if we have to. We ride them all over the Midwest near you guys, Missouri, Nebraska, Kansas, Iowa, and then Hawaii, California, North Dakota, South Dakota. There's a lot of beekeepers there, as you guys probably know. Alabama, Georgia, Texas, I mean, just all over. And the pollination in California is going on right now. So we get a ton of calls for people, beekeepers holding their bees over there to do the pollinate the almond fields there. And so that's the coverage. Again, we do stock, workers' comp, commercial auto. We can insure the actual hives, boxes, and all that. And we write that on what's called an inland marine. In other words, anything that goes from place to place. We write that on what's called an inland marine. And all this stuff is fairly affordable, I think. And here's how most of my beekeepers, and we write a ton of them. Here's how it starts. They call up and go, yeah, I've been a hobby beekeeper for a long time, and I'm fixing to go sell it at a farmer's market, right? And lo and behold, the farmer's market requires that they have insurance. So it's their first taste in trying to get insurance. And then here's one thing. I know it's true in Texas. I don't know about Missouri or the Midwest. If you're a beekeeper and you just do it as a hobby, and let's say you have a couple hives in your backyard, whether you're in a subdivision or got some property, some land, if you just have a couple hives and you're learning the beekeeping, and you're learning the ropes, and you don't make any revenue, and if you have a homeowner's policy, it's covered under your homeowners, because hobbies are covered under homeowners. Let's say you dink around old cars. It's a hobby, but you don't get paid for it. Then that's covered under your homeowners. Same thing on beekeeping. You know, yeah, your neighbors might go, wait a minute, what are the beehives? And, you know, I mean, but it's covered. I know it is in Texas, and I think it is in your state too. But once you start making a dime, it's now called business pursuits. And in your homeowner's policy, that's excluded. It's excluded. So that's when you have to have the coverage. Okay. And a lot of our beekeepers, when they get the first quote, our companies have what's called a minimum premium, and it usually runs about $550 a year. If you did $100 in revenue and selling at a farmer's market, you did $100 revenue. That's it. Our minimum premium is still that. If you did $1, or I think it's up to like $10,000, it's the same premium. I know that doesn't make a lot of sense, but it's just like if you do beehive removal and you have a minimum trip charge. In order to go out there and remove it, I charge at least $300. It's the same thing in the insurance world. So they won't issue a policy unless it generates at least X amount of premium. Okay. And then that's pretty much it. That's what we insure. And again, we'll do the tours, the classes. I write, like I said, I write a lot of the associations when they have trade shows. We insure that. We insure Washington, D.C. Beekeepers Association, Texas Beekeepers Association, Central Texas Beekeepers Association, just on and on and on. So we are, I think we're well connected in the beekeeping industry. And we also advertise in a couple of the bee journal magazines, Bee Culture being one, and American Bee Journal magazine is another one. And we support them and we advertise in their trade journals. And then the last thing before I open up the Q&A, I hope you guys are still with me here. I got a fire. I'll show you that. Anyway, we write anywhere from your local small hobby beekeeper. I mean, they just do it more for fun, and then go to a farmer's market, all the way up to your major commercial beekeeper, and anything and everything in between. Two examples I like to give you, and for sake of time, I would have a whole bunch. I insure a company called Beeweaver, and I was telling, we were talking about this when we talked about doing this last week. They are one of the largest beekeepers in all of Texas. You can Google that. It's a Beeweaver. They do fantastic, and they've got a whole winery where they sell mead, and they have wine tasting rooms, and they've got an RV park where people can come to their apiary area, their facility, park their RV and go on tours and go on wine tasting. And they've knocked it out of the park. And we've had them pretty much we've had them for a long time. And I like to give them as an example, because they've hit a home run in the beekeeping world as far as revenue. And I've got another client called Holdman Honey. And we started out, he was just a little small, started out as a hobby. And then he started doing farmers market. He is now doing, our big grocery chain in Texas is HEB. Okay. He's got the regional HEB account. He's got Whole Foods. That's our organic grocery store, started in Austin, Texas, but they're everywhere. And he's doing fantastic as well. And then, like I said, we write a lot of associations, their insurance. We write one I would like you guys to take a special note of. It's called Hives for Heroes. I don't know if y'all have ever heard of that. Eric, we talked about that last week. Fantastic association. What they do is, if you served in the military and you served in the war, and you're just kind of having trouble getting your life back together, you suffer from post-traumatic stress and all that, through this association, and it's free to them, they'll hook you up with a bee mentor, and you kind of shadow them, follow them along, and learn the beekeeping industry. And then if it works for you, and you start your own beekeeping company, or you can keep working for the mentor, and that has been a huge success. And he's going to launch it nationwide. And it just, like I said, we're just involved in the industry. We know what you guys do for a living. And I personally admire it. I really do. And that's the main thing I want to talk about. Do you guys have any questions at all regarding insurance for beekeepers? And I think my fire just went out. I guess it was on a time limit.
Yeah, it looks
Yeah.
cold back there now.
I timed it for 20 minutes, so my time is done.
That's funny.
Real quick, I'm a Dallas Cowboy fan, by the way. They play today. Let me see if I have my Dallas Cowboy down there somewhere. There's my Cowboy right there. I
Nice.
got a beekeeping picture there. It's a bee doing pollination on look like a bluebonnet, you know. So anyway, but go Chiefs! If there any Chiefs fans,
Oh yeah.
they play tonight. Shouldn't be a problem, Pittsburgh. But we played the 49ers. I think we're going to struggle a little bit. But anyway, are there? I hope what I've passed on is informative. Is there any questions at all?
So our first question here, Steve,
Yes.
is you mentioned that if you make any money, that's when you start needing to be insured outside whatever your homeowner's insurance will cover. The question is, when you say as soon as you make a dime, do you mean as soon as you net money or gross money?
A dime.
So that's
I
gross,
mean,
right?
once you start making money, I mean, it's going to be more than a dime if you sell one thing of honey, right? But once you start making money, there's a specific wording in your homeowners. It says we exclude business pursuits.
Mm,
And I know that's what it is in Texas. So once whatever you were doing as a hobby, it starts becoming business pursuits because now you're making revenue.
that makes sense. So no matter, it doesn't matter how much money you've spent in the
Money is
past.
money. Money
As
is
soon as
money.
you sell something, you are
It kind
on
of
your
takes
way.
it out of the homeowners, and you have to get a commercial liability policy
Mhm.
to cover that exposure.
That makes sense.
But great question.
So oh, here's this is a message that was sent directly to me, but
Cool.
I think it's meant for you.
Okay.
For beekeepers that are younger than 18, can they be insured if they're keeping bees and they're selling products and they are looking for some coverage?
Without a doubt. I mean,
Yeah,
it's not a now if they had a commercial auto policy they needed, that may be because they're 18, right?
right.
But no, we don't care about age, we don't care about experience. You know, if they need insurance, we're gonna find a good competitive market for them. You know, age is not a factor. Time in business is not a factor. Now, one of our companies, they really like to see 3 years in business, and they want to see prior insurance, and have they had any losses? The typical underwriting stuff that
Mm,
really drives me crazy. Sometimes they're afraid of their own shadow. It's like
sure.
it's beekeepers. This is what they do. Real quick, I'm gonna tell you a real quick claim story. We've been doing this for 20 years, and we have never had to pay a claim on someone that got stung by a bee.
Hmm.
Never had it. We've been brought to court, because if you get sued, that's what liability is. It pays for if they drag you into court, sue you because my little Timothy got stung and he's now allergic to bees and blah, blah, blah. We've never had to pay out a claim because here's why. In the court of law, even if you had a beehive and an apiary, they cannot prove in the court of law beyond a shadow of a doubt that that was your bee that stung them.
Makes a lot of sense.
I mean, bees don't have like an identifiable marking and they killed it. You're like a snake you kill and you bring to the doctor with, this is what
Right.
bit me,
They're not carrying around a driver's license.
Yeah, I mean, it could have been a bee from anywhere,
Sure.
right?
But that's
So
great that you guys cover like legal costs because it's still very expensive
we
to.
cover, even though they dismiss it, we still cover the legal costs. If you have liability with us, you get dragged into court because of a lawsuit.
Mhm.
That's what we do.
So I think it's interesting that you, when you see people, when you have your clients doing cutouts, you would suggest or request that they not offer services to do repairs, just to cut the bees out themselves. And then you said you also have a whole harmless agreement that you like to give your insureds.
I do, and Eric, I can certainly share that with you. I can email it to you.
I just think it's really interesting. Is there do you have similar contracts for if you're insuring folks who send bees off to almonds or any other sort of pollination service? Do you have agreements that you like to see your insureds use in those situations?
Not really, Eric, because when you're tearing into someone's house, I mean that's a heavy exposure.
Mm.
You know, I mean, there's more likelihood of something to go wrong in that situation than you are carrying. Hey, what's the score of that game? Okay. Oh, that's me now. Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry, guys. Went from the fire to the game. Apologize. Whereas if you haul bees to, and we have clients that they have semi tractor trailers and they haul their bees to California. You know, we'll insure the boxes, the hives, and possibly the semi trailer, you know, the tractor trailer. But there's no hold harmless agreement. I mean, I'm trying to think of a situation where they would need one. Hold harmless for who? For the almond owners, the almond field owners.
It's hard to imagine a scenario where
Yeah.
the people receiving pollinator services have some sort of a claim against the providers, or the other way around necessarily. But
Right,
I'm
yeah.
just sort of curious.
Well, no, we haven't in the past. It's not, doesn't mean we never will, but when you're tearing up someone's wall to get to the beehive so you can, you know, remove them and you know, there's no telling what you're going to run into. Some pipes, some wiring, some, you know, my next door neighbor, I mean, right here, just, I'm looking at it right now. The guy that used to live there is gone. I'll say this real quick. We were going to have a pool party for our grandson, but we've noticed a bunch of bees around, and we got to find out where these bees. We're actually picking up some young kids there. We have a pool, and we were wondering where they were coming from. You know, I guess our pool was attracting the bees. You know, the water and probably even the chlorine. We finally found where they were coming from, and oh my goodness, it was the biggest swarm I've ever seen in my life. I mean, it was massive. You know, went knocked on our neighbor's door, and I said, hey neighbor, you've got a problem back here. You got a swarm of bees that just come look at it. We showed him. He's like, oh my gosh. He goes, I never come back here. I'm like, no doubt. You know, we even offered to have him pay. We paid half for him to, if he could remove those before our grandson's party. You know, but yeah, man, they tore into walls and they did I thought they were doing a remodeling job, you know, when they first started. You know, so that's just, my point is, that's just a big exposure. You know, our companies would prefer that you not tell them that I'll repair anything that happens when I do this, because if something bad happens, the company's on the hook. You know, if you tear into an electrical wiring and burns a house down, the insurance company's got to pay for that. You know.
Sure. And when you start cutting into walls, you're dealing with a lot of potential trades. So even if you're comfortable in the carpentry world, if you nick an electrical wire or something, or
now it's electrical or plumbing or, you know, drywall. I mean, it's just then you've opened up a whole lot of industries, you know, there. But the companies I was mentioning, we've got a special beekeeping program with them, and they like to stay within the realms of true beekeeping, you know. And then once you start doing carpentry and repairing, and then that kind of gets out of the scope of beekeeping.
Yeah, it makes sense.
And it's more of a it's more of an artisan contractor trade, which, I mean, we insure, but it's a lot more money than beekeeping.
Sure.
You know, for sure.
Next question is, when you said you cover equipment but not bees, is that equipment covered against like natural disasters, fires, tornado, that sort of thing?
Oh yeah, that's what it does cover. That's what it does. It covers natural disasters other than flood.
Oh, interesting. So floods are not covered.
Yeah, well, just like on your homeowners, flood is not covered unless you specifically purchase flood.
Wow, even for bees. Okay.
You know, yeah. So that's how. But I've got a client in Houston. He's made a thing that if there is a flood, the beehive will float. I mean, you know, seriously. And I assure him I wish I knew his name. He's doing well. He's selling that thing that he
That's interesting.
With. Yeah.
What about theft?
Oh, absolutely.
Absolutely.
That's what it does cover. It does. You guys won't have to worry about this. We insure a lot of beekeepers in California. It does not cover if the bear goes in and destroys your beehive to get the honey. And we have that happen quite a bit.
Yeah. So you see that's not
covered.
Oh, wow.
So if Mr. Bear gets a hold of your hives and breaks them all to get that honey, it's not covered.
Interesting. Not really a problem for us here in Missouri.
Exactly. Hope not anyway, right?
Yeah. Hope not. What are your coverage limits?
Yeah, we go all the way from The average we write are 1 million, what they call occurrence, 2 million, what they call aggregate. But we can go up to 2 million, 4 million, or we can go higher than that if somebody requires that they carry those high limits, which is fairly rare. But it does happen. I've got an account right now. He got a job with IBM, and IBM requires just outrageous limits. And and for him to do a certificate, they need like, it's just insane, and they need like an $8 million umbrella. I'm like, ooh. So it's just, but it's IBM. Anybody that's got, they're a Fortune 500 billion-dollar stock traded company. That's their attorneys. That's what they put together, insurance requirement wise.
Yeah, makes sense. Next question here is, the question is, does it cover diseases? I think what they mean is, since
no, not exactly what that means. It does not, because remember, we don't cover the bees.
Well, I guess what I'm asking is, what I think the questioner meant is, there are some diseases where you have to destroy the equipment. Like with American foul brood, for example, the best case practice is to destroy your equipment. So is it covered in that state?
No, and I'll tell you why. The definition of a claim is sudden and accidental, right? Sudden and accidental. That's like back in the early 90s in Austin, Texas, a family sued their farmer's agent because they had mold, right? You've probably seen the story. They had mold, and the farmers was dragging their feet, said mold is not a sudden and accidental event. It's like over time, right? Mold. And they denied the claim. This people sued them, and they ended up suing for like triple damages. And they were awarded like multi-million dollars, and because they denied the claim, but they said they should have paid it. So anyway, no, if you deliberately you have to destroy something because of some
like a disease
requirement. Yeah. That's not covered, but it doesn't mean we can't go to the company and try to get some sort of what's called an endorsement, adding that coverage, So again, we've got companies that they got a beekeeping program for us, and we can tweak it any way that we can get them to tweak it.
Okay. Last question before I let you go. You said that you had a minimum premium, and I think I missed what it was.
Sure. It varies by company.
Oh, sure. Okay. By underwriting.
Yeah, by underwriting. One company, their minimum premiums, I think $550 to $600.
Is that per year?
That's per year. That's correct.
Yeah. Okay.
So it's not that bad.
No,
I mean, because you think about it, you're paying $600, and if you get sued one time, defense costs will be way more than $600.
Yeah.
So if you look at it that way, it's not. But a lot of the hobby go, oh man, I thought it'd be like $100. Like, no, I'm saying, and I get that.
Yeah.
They've never been into the insurance shopping world as a beekeeper, right? And so anywhere from $550 minimum premium to around $800.
Yeah.
I want to tell you another interesting account that I write. I insure an account. It's in New York, and they got a job with the city of Manhattan. They've got their bees on a high rise, and they pollinate Central Park.
Wow, that's cool.
Isn't that cool? I mean, I could go on and on. We have so many neat stories of beekeepers that we've written. Like I said, a lot of them started as hobby beekeepers, and then now they're making a fortune. And the potential's there. And I've got case after case of stories that they started out, I'm just a hobby, I'm going to start selling farmers market, and then next thing you know, they've exploded. So it happens, and it's out there.
Right on. Final question, just a quick review of what liabilities do you cover?
When you say what liabilities, what do you mean specifically? What liabilities, meaning what liabilities do we cover? We cover
so that's a question from Roger. Maybe Roger can turn his mic on.
Roger, can you
clarify his question?
Yeah. If you could unmute yourself and just let me know. Roger. What type of liability? We cover commercial general liability. Within general liability, we have products liability. We have what's called completed ops, which really doesn't apply to you guys. If you're at a party and you slander a beekeeper, you go, you're not a beekeeper, he's a loser, he cheats and lies and steals, and you slander him, and his business is affected because of that. And he takes you to court, that's covered under your general liability.
I think the clarification here is specifically harm to others by bees and bee stings and so forth.
Right. Yeah, that's general liability. I can wrap that up in a nutshell. If you're pulled into court, if you're sued because of your beekeeping operation, if you're sued and you're dragged into court, general liability will at least address the lawsuit. So, that pretty much covers in the event you're brought into court, and whether they'll pay the claim. If let's say you got pulled into court because someone put lip balm on their lips and their lips swelled up and their face got disfigured, and they take you into court, the company has to go in there and defend it, but then they'll say, right here in the policy, we exclude cosmetics. So they'll not pay the lawsuit because that is specifically excluded.
Got it. And then
Roger, does that make sense at all? Go ahead.
I hope so. There was a clarification too about, you mentioned queens and nukes.
Yep.
But queens would queens fall under the colony, so the queens don't get insured?
Well, remember, we don't insure the actual queens or the nukes. We insure the boxes that they're in.
Just the boxes. That's what I thought. Okay.
Yeah.
Just making sure.
Or if you're no. If your business is you sell nukes and you sell queens, we take that revenue and we insure that operation.
I see. Okay.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Not the actual queen or not the actual nuke, but if you're a nuke and queen bee seller, we insure you as a seller.
I see.
Insure liability.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Well, we've been answering questions for longer than the amount of time the presentation was, so I think we're gonna. Yeah, this is great though. We've had a really engaged group today, and Steve, this has been a great presentation.
Yeah. Hey, y'all, likewise. Thank you so much again. I love your industry, and I've never met a beekeeper I didn't just think they're just a cool person. And Eric's got some brochures, got a couple of them, and he's got my business cards. So if you guys ever want to reach out to us and ask questions or anything, just let us know.
So I popped a copy, a picture of the business card in the chat scroll. So you're welcome to scroll through that and find that picture. Otherwise, we will be sending, we'll email the membership those pamphlets so that everybody has them. And we're getting a lot of thank you messages in the chat now. Steve, it was a great presentation. This was super informative. So we appreciate you.
You guys take care. Go Chiefs. Thanks.
Yep, go Chiefs. Thank you, sir. And we're going to be transitioning now to our scholarship students. Let's see, it's the Blessings who are going to be presenting today. So I'm going to do